I'm Charlotte McLeod with the Investing News Network, and here today with me are Shaun Dykes, President and CEO of American CuMo Mining, and Trevor Burns, CFO and Director at American CuMo. Thank you so much to both of you for joining me.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here with you.
Of course. Now, we're here at Mines and Money in New York, and Shaun, you just participated in a mining pitch battle with Thunderstruck Resources and Sphinx Resources. Can you start by telling me about the event and how it went for you?
Well, I think it went very well, in fact, for us, and we got to present our project. I think our project was a little bit too big for the type of presentation that was involved, as the other two are more grassroots type exploration project, and we have a very large advanced project with a 2.8 billion capex cost, producing about probably in the neighborhood of $660 million in cash flow per year moving forward.
Just for those who may not be aware, can you tell me a few more details about the project?
Well, we're basically the largest molybdenum deposit in the world and also in the U.S. We're also the largest silver, tungsten, and rhenium deposit in the U.S. and one of the top 5 copper deposits. Basically, the size of the deposits gives us the scale to lower our costs. So we're now a very, very low-cost producer because our byproducts pay for the cost of the molybdenum, and that gives us a return. We've just completed an economic analysis that shows that we have about a $5.8 billion net present value, a 25% internal rate of return, and as I said, a cash flow of about $660 million per year for an 82-year mine life.
There were lots of good questions that came up during the pitch battle. I think one key issue that was raised was how American CuMo will succeed when other major molybdenum miners have had to shut down. What makes your company different?
Basically, the one thing I mentioned just earlier is the low cost. The current molybdenum producers that have been shutting down are all high-cost producers. Like we were a high-cost producer up to about 2 weeks ago when we did the updated economics. Thompson Creek, basically Henderson, all the molybdenum producers are $6 or higher per pound moly producers, and the price was got down to $5, down to $7.60. In fact, molybdenum has moved the highest of all the metals since Christmas, moving from $7.60 to about $12.50 a pound. But because of our scale and because of our byproducts, we're a low-cost producer. We're economic, even when moly was at its lowest price during the last period.
So you talked just briefly right now about prices. Some participants in the panel also expressed distrust about molybdenum in terms of the market and prices and things like that. What would you say to those types of concerns?
Well, basically, if you look at the history of molybdenum pricing, it has been up and down from a low of $5 to a high of $45. But then cobalt's been doing the same thing. The critical thing about it is not to worry too much about what the price is doing, but where you fit on your low-cost scale. And being the lowest-cost producer, yes, we make more money at higher prices, but the key is to make money and still be production during these low-cost environments. And right now, our current price to produce is $2.37 a pound, which is half the lowest price of $5 that it was. So that's the advantage that CuMo has over all the... And again, if you don't study the thing in full detail and know these type of things to put it together, molybdenum is a sporadic market. But then the other side of the coin is, as the market has been reacting in the past 4 months, it's showing you that molybdenum was underpriced, and as the demand picks up, especially not only in the steel, but also in the batteries, where molybdenum graphene is coming into the batteries, into the water, the drinking water desalination plants. If you look at all the experts at CPM, Roskill, Platts, they're all stating that the world is going to need 200 to 300 million more pounds of molybdenum in the next five years. Right now, that supply is not there. And so whenever you have a supply issue, undersupply, and a huge demand, you know what happens to the price. And that is the opportunity that CuMo creates.
Continuing on that note, earlier this year, you launched a campaign to make molybdenum a critical mineral in the U.S. I think you've explained a little bit, but why do you think that needs to happen?
Well, the situation is that in the U.S. there's a critical minerals list of about 30 minerals currently, and there's been a real push to Congress, the Trump administration, to increase that number with a number of minerals, molybdenum being one of them, but also in fact copper and silver, of which of course we are prolific in our project. So in fact, as Shaun has mentioned, tungsten and rhenium are a big part of our project. We're the largest one in the U.S., and those are already critical minerals. And so if those other three were to be added, molybdenum, copper, and silver, that would mean we'd have 5 critical minerals in our project. And so that's a big bonus for our project to ensure that it gets put through with all the permitting and so on. But we believe, as Shaun's mentioned here, that molybdenum is truly a 21st century metal. About 85% of the use is in steel. You know that the U.S. government is so keen on getting the infrastructure rebuilt in the United States, and so it's going to need U.S. steel, it's going to need U.S. molybdenum. Right now we're dependent on Chinese molybdenum, and that's also a security risk because molybdenum is also used in an alloy, as is rhenium for reinforcing fighter jet turbines and so on. So there's a lot of both economic and national security reasons why molybdenum should be added. And we've been working extremely close with Congress to get this pushed through. And so far, it looks very favorable that it would do so.
What does that process look like of getting molybdenum designated as a critical mineral?
Right. Well, as I say, there's been a number of Congress members that have put forth to the key decision makers for that to advocate very strongly that molybdenum, as well as several others, I mentioned copper, silver, even gold, nickel, that they be added to the critical minerals list. So this is all going through the process, and we would hope that by August we're going to get a result on that.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to that. Just to close out, are there any other milestones we can look forward to at the company this year?
Yes, basically, we're now proceeding to pre-feasibility, delivering a pre-feasibility study within the next year. That will update the economics and also optimize the economics by reducing our costs and increasing the current profitability. But the other purpose is to establish what the mine will actually look like and get a mine plan in front of the government. It ties in with the critical minerals designation for the tungsten and rhenium we've already got, and hopefully the molybdenum, because that, as being the largest deposit, we'll be then pushing to make sure that they expedite the permitting process for the actual mine and mine plan. And therefore, that how we establish the shareholder value increasing as we move forward, because in our recently announced preliminary economic analysis, we're looking at earnings per share of over $3 a share. And as you know, our stock is currently trading at 7.5 cents, so there's a large disconnect there. And we're trying to reestablish that value by moving forward. There'll be drill results. There will be all sorts of things going through on the permitting side of things coming up. And, of course, things like the announcement that molybdenum will be added to the critical minerals list.
Okay, well, that sounds great. Thank you so much for joining me. Once again, I'm Charlotte McLeod with the Investing News Network, and this is Shaun Dykes and Trevor Burns of American CuMo Mining.
Okay, thank you.